Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Zarina. I'm a graphic designer and art director. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I use the golden ratio in graphic design, as well as some other composition tips that can be handy. This was a requested video, and so at first I wasn't actually sure if I wanted to do it just because the way I use it is pretty straightforward. But the more I thought about it, I thought maybe I actually do have some advice that might be helpful to people, especially if you're just starting out in graphic design. Or honestly, really anyone who's working in visual arts. Sometimes the golden ratio can even be handy when it comes to like music and stuff, but that's a whole other ball game that we're not focusing on today. If you aren't familiar, I'm going to give a little bit of background on what the golden ratio is. I'm going to talk about math for a second. Don't leave. I mean, you can leave if you want, but if you're not a math person, bear with me. You don't need to really understand this in order to use it in your work. I just think it's helpful to have some background knowledge. And if you are someone who is, sort of okay with that stuff, it can be really helpful to understand. So the golden ratio is a ratio that is often found in nature. Essentially, it is a ratio between two numbers that equals about 1.618. Another way of explaining it is that it is when the ratio of two numbers is the same as the ratio of the sum of those two numbers to the largest of those two numbers. That's the most I'm going to talk about math here, and if that didn't make sense to you, that is totally fine. So this is an important ratio when it comes to math and science, but it also can be handy in the visual arts just because this ratio is very pleasing to the eye. It's found in sunflower seeds, pine cones, seashells, lots of different things in nature, as well as our own faces and bodies. When it comes to using the golden ratio in my work, I mostly just use it as a starting point. Sometimes when I start a design, I can get a little overwhelmed by the possibilities. There's, endless compositions that you can do. If I know that I'm going to be dividing up the composition into sections anyway as part of the design, I will use the golden ratio to help me make those decisions about how large each section should be. And when I say that, I'm not super technical at all. I'm not like whipping out a calculator to do this. I literally just take an image from Google and drop it in and just use that to kind of eyeball the spacing between everything. And I just kind of see what different compositions and shapes feel good to me. I tend to mostly just use the rectangle aspect of it. I don't use the spiral very often. Not really for any particular reason. I just don't find myself gravitating towards it as much. But you could definitely use the spiral in a few ways. I think one really cool way to use it would be if you had kind of like a minimalist composition, like say you had a person walking through the desert or something, and then you could place that person in sort of the core of the spiral so that the focal point is in the center. I also want to add that sometimes, or honestly like most of the time, when I use guides like this, I'm not strict with them at all. I will adjust them if I feel like it's gonna make the composition look better. It's just like any other grid that you would use in InDesign or Photoshop. It's meant to help you, not hold you back. Guides are meant to be just that. They're just guides. They're not hard and fast rules you have to follow. If you feel like a guide is holding you back or stressing you out, just not allowing you to be creative, then just don't use it. It's fine. They're meant to help you establish a foundation, not hold you back from being creative. It's kind of like how you learn the basic rules of typography when you're starting out, and it's like, never stretch type. You can only use 3 fonts at a time. Start out with 9-point type over 13-point leading or whatever. And then as you get more advanced and you start experimenting, you just break all the rules, and that's when you make the really cool stuff. So a couple more composition tricks I use. The rule of thirds. This is really common in photography. I think that's mainly where it's used, but you can kind of use it for anything. Essentially, you just divvy up the canvas into 9 sections. It looks really nice typically if the focal point falls in one of the 4 points. I'll highlight it on the screen. Something else that I do that I actually haven't heard a lot of other people talking about is using triangles. If there's ever an object that I want to kind of place randomly around a composition or have it feel kind of sporadic, I will make triangles. So if there's like stars or dots or even just text that's kind of placed around, if you put it in a triangle formation, it tends to help your eye just bounce around the canvas more, and it feels more balanced and visually pleasing, but it also still feels kind of random. So hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed, feel free to give it a like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Even if you're just saying hi, it really helps give the channel a little boost. If you like videos like this, or if you like design with me style sort of videos, I post those as well. So feel free to subscribe. My Etsy shop is linked below, and I think that's everything I'm supposed to say. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.